Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Hey there, everybody, it's Dr. Roto. Get out the insurance cards, get out the copay. The office is open, my friends. And speaking of open, we are opening up a new baseball podcast called the Caught Looking Podcast that I'll be doing weekly with my friend Lou Landers. Lou, I'm excited about this. I haven't done a baseball podcast and it's got to be like 2 years.
Well, I'm honored to be breaking the barrier for you yet again. As you can see, I'm here in Landers Stadium and excited to be doing the podcast from Landers Stadium all season.
It looks like a very comfortable stadium. I know the food there is, top notch, right? Just like it is at Citi Field. You get to overpay for like Bobby Flay stuff.
Oh yeah, of course. But I mean, you can't go to the ballpark and not get food.
That's a good point. It is a very good point. Speaking of the ballpark, Lou, opening day yesterday, I'm old school. Maybe I'm just old, but I remember the days when Cincinnati Reds was like the first game, and that was the game that everybody needed to watch. They were in Korea. The Reds were around, but they weren't the most important game. What were your initial takeaways from opening day?
There's a number of them, mostly injury-related things because that affects fantasy directly. I mean, the biggest blow, I think, to a lot of people was Royce Lewis.
Yep.
He was starting to go so early in everyone's drafts and limps off early on. I didn't see the injury, but I was checking out the box score early on, and all of a sudden I saw Edward Julian was in the game because Julian was sitting against the lefty. And I was like, uh-oh, that's not good news. Turns out it was I think, quad injury, they're saying. So hopefully it's not too serious, but they're not really giving us details at this point. And the problem with Lewis, Doc, injury history, it just keeps happening.
So I'm at the Twin spring training game a couple of weeks ago with Trevor Hillstrom, Trust and Trevor, and we're talking about Royce Lewis. And we're literally looking, and I think it was the second inning, he hits a ball off for Nestor Cortez that was like shot out of a cannon, Lou. And I look at Trevor, I go, this dude's like a second-round talent. And Trevor goes something like, if he could stay on the field. And you're looking at the Twins, Buxton, it's only a matter of time that dude's hurt. You're looking at Royce Lewis can't stay healthy. You're looking at a Twins team that honestly could be competing for the American League Championship, but not if these guys are not on the field. Royce Lewis is that much of an impact player.
100%, because the Twins have pitching. They have some nice role players, but they need their stars to be healthy. And I mean, they need their stars to be healthy just to win that division. Are they the favorite? Yes. But I mean, the Guardians can always pitch and the Tigers are improved. So it's not as easy of a division. And without those guys, it's going to be harder.
Now, you mentioned the Guardians. Shane Bieber last night threw some BBs out there. Now, the interesting thing was I won a couple of bucks late in the in DraftKings. I was playing David Fry and Tyler Freeman. I didn't even know who these guys are, Lou. I swear to you, I don't know David Fry and Tyler Freeman, but I know that Shane Bieber threw, 13 strikeouts? I mean, if he throws the way that he used to a couple of years ago, he may turn out to be the steal of the draft.
Oh, yeah. I was a little worried about him coming in because there was a drop in velocity last year. But if the velocity is back, we know he's a great pitcher. Let's also keep in mind, though, it was the Oakland A's and it was in Oakland.
Right.
So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. It could have been matchup dependent, but it's certainly something to look at. And I'm going to be doing my RT Sports article later on, and I do have a prop against the A's tonight. So because of how bad they looked last night.
So are you going to Logan Allen a little over with strikeouts?
You know it.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about do I play him tonight or do I play AJ Puck? But we'll get to DFS in just a few. All right, yeah. Justin Steele looks like he was throwing well until he left with an injury. He left on his own power, which is good, but I don't know. It looked like a hamstring, Lou. The Cubs are another team who I think there's a lot of good things going on there, but the pitching, Taillon's injured, and now you're talking about Steele injured. That's not a deep rotation.
No, it's not. And Steele is basically an ace level pitcher in that rotation, at least. He's a really good fantasy pitcher too. So it could be a big loss. Craig Counsell, the Cubs manager, was not super optimistic. So it does look like he'll hit the IL. in terms of the fantasy impact, regardless of Steele, because obviously it's a big loss, I don't think there's any real benefit here, because if the Cubs do make a move, it would probably be Hayden Wesneski, maybe Ben Brown. I wouldn't touch Brown at all. Wesneski, after last season, I don't think I would touch him either, maybe in a 20-teamer. So it doesn't seem like it's going to necessarily open a spot either for someone to be picked up.
When I'm taking a guy in a 20-team league, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So Garrett Crochet, dude, you said to me on Sirius XM. So if you haven't, you don't know about it, check it out. Fantasy House Calls, 9 to 11 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday. My man Lou Landers comes on last Sunday at 10:30 a.m. And I ask him about Crochet, and he says to me, think like a young Chris Sale. He looked like a young Chris Sale yesterday. That's how good he threw.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the strikeout stuff. There's no question about it. I guess durability could be a factor throughout the season because he's never really gone a full workload as a starter before. But while he's pitching, he should be good. And the ratios might be inconsistent. It could be matchup dependent. Against the AL Central, I'm liking it. Against other teams, maybe not. But the strikeouts are going to be there.
The strikeouts are definitely going to be there, but I don't know whether runs are going to be there. I mean, I know Skubal was on the mound, but that White Sox team, Lou, and I think it goes to a larger question. The A's, the White Sox, the Rockies, there are some bad teams out there. And I think I believe this in fantasy football. I try to avoid players on bad teams that don't score. I feel like as much as I like Zach Geloff, he may only score like 50 runs this year because the A's may only score 60. I worry about that. Do you worry about that with the White Sox and these other teams?
I do a little bit, but I don't as much as I would in football, simply because you can also make the argument that in baseball, the best players on even bad teams are in such good lineup spots. Someone has to produce, even though there will be nights where they get shut out. They're still going to produce. And yes, you're right. Geloff could have 25 home runs and 30 runs. He might have to drive himself in. But my point being is, yes, of course, you want to avoid typically guys on bad teams, but there are certain situations where you still want guys hitting in the middle of an order.
I know you're a Yankee fan, so you remember. Was it Mike Stanley who was the catcher or Bob Stanley?
I want to say Mike, but I mean, it might have been
I think Bob Stanley was the pitcher for the Red Sox and Mike Stanley was the catcher. There was a year that Mike Stanley had like 25 home runs and 45 RBIs. Tells you everything you need to know about that guy's year.
Yeah, that's when those were some dark years for the Yankees too, before the Jeter, Bernie, Pettit, Posada, etc.
Right, exactly, before Posada got in there. All right, one other thing before we start taking a look at some waiver stuff. The Tigers are in a safe situation. I think a lot of people spent some money on Alex Lang. And there was that go to the bullpen. Jason Foley comes there. I don't feel shocked by that, Lou, because there were times last year where they were playing Lang, they were playing Foley, Shelby Miller's there. It just feels to me like the Tigers are not going to be all in on Lang, which is going to be a problem.
It will be a problem, but you know what? It's only one game, but they could go all in on Foley because he is good and he's got explosive stuff. Lang. So my former co-host on the Lucas Baseball podcast, Lucas Beery, and I were actually talking about it today because we took Foley in our draft champions that we do together. So we're, okay, great. We lucked into some saves maybe. But he was breaking down Lang for me a little more. He had a 42% ball rate last year, Doc. This guy does not find the strike zone. And you don't want that in any situation, let alone a save situation. So I don't think the Tigers trust him.
Lang is better in save situations than he is in non-save situations. Like when he comes in the ninth and he doesn't need to get them out. It's like, just don't even look at it. He can let up 3 runs in those outings.
Yeah. I guess the point is the Tigers probably don't trust him the way that I don't trust him and you probably don't trust him. So sure, I'm not going to hand the ball over to Foley in the 9th inning every time there's a safe situation at this point. But he should definitely be someone on your waiver wire or fab, I guess, list this week because it's very possible he gets more save opportunities moving forward because I just don't think they trust in Lang.
All right, so let's talk about fab. Victor Scott was shockingly dropped in my TG FBI league. I was like, dude, you do not drop Victor Scott at this point.
I mean, I get it.
What?
I get it. I was sent down, right? So you're looking, and if you have injuries, on the NFBC formats, it's tough because without the IR spots, IL spots, it can get complicated. Like I have Pete Crow Armstrong stashed, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold on to him. I want to because I don't want him to come up in 3 weeks and then have to rebid to get him. So I get it. It's kind of unlucky for that person that drafted Scott because of the Carlson injury, he's not up. But now, I mean, you're looking at, man, I'm going to on potentially 70 stolaces.
I'm going to hold on to a guy like that as long as I can. And I will cut other starters. I will cut starters, Lou. I will, who are just like fringe starters. Like, do I need Hunter Renfroe or do I need Victor Scott? Hunter Renfroe could hit me 25 home runs. I get that. But I can find Hunter Renfroe out there. I can't replace Victor Scott. And I think that's what people need to know high stakes wise. Like, I'm not all about, I'd rather keep a Victor Scott because that's an impact player, where a guy who's a replacement level player, dude, he's got to go. So speaking of Scott, let's say you got $1,000 fab. How much are you spending on him this weekend?
I might go up to 150, 175. And you know what? There might be somebody out there who goes wild and spends 300, especially if they don't have the stolen bases. But this is a guy who basically could win you that category on top of what you already have on your roster. Plus him, you're getting probably 14, 15 points in stolen bases.
Right. No, I'm with you. I would think that 300 feels like right around the ceiling. So what I always like to do is I put in a bid where I feel like maybe a bid I'm comfortable paying, but at the same time, I may not break the bank on him. So let's say for me, it'd be like 163-ish, right? So if I get him, all right, I spent, 163, but at the same point, if I don't get him and you spend 240, I feel pretty good about it.
For sure. And I have a similar situation with Ginkel on the D-backs. I need a closer. I need saves. He's not necessarily going to be the guy all season long because Seawald should come back at some point. I put in a bid in the 70s, but I'm thinking I'm comfortable with that, but that's not going to get him. So maybe I'll move it up to 110 or 115 because I saw what Jax went for last week.
Right.
That could get him, and I'm comfortable spending it. But if someone's going to bid 180 or 200 or something, there's going to be other closers. Let them spend their money.
I think that's the big thing. People chase closers early on, and you're spending, let's say, 180 on Ginkel, 200 on Jax. Well, what happens come, I don't know, it's March 29th, come June 1st, and Jax is no longer the closer. You just spent 200 of your fab. Now, fast forward to September, and you got $32 to try to win a league. You're not winning a league with $32 of fab in September.
That, and also you're going to probably get better deals on closers in the middle of the season because people won't have as much money to spend on them. So right. It works both ways. You want the guy, and Ginkel's a good pitcher. I'd love to get him, but I'm not going to overspend this early.
Right. All right. Let me ask you about Triolo from Pittsburgh. Got a little speed, got a little bat. There's something going on there, but I don't know what it is. So when I look at a player like that, I like, it's like paying for a look. Now, maybe there's more to him than I'm giving him credit for. Like there's something there, but I also feel like, is he going to last on my roster all year? I don't know that. So when it's a player like that, like a Lewis Gill or a Triolo, how much do you pay for the look?
Well, see, Triolo's interesting because he's a former second-round pick, and he did get some time in the bigs last year. Performed really well too, Doc, especially in the on-base percentage department. Over 380. I did swipe some bases. I like the fact that he's third base right now, but going to gain that second base because that's where he's playing. So the dual eligibility, some good bat to ball skills, some speed, maybe some power, everyday playing time. That's definitely worth a look. At this point, though, I mean, 20 to 30 seems like something I would take a look at. It also depends on my roster. Am I looking for a corner or a middle spot, or am I more in need of the outfield? If I kind of am set right now in the places where Triolo can help me, I might only spend a 11 or 13 or something, because I do want to get the look, but it depends on the needs.
See, I look at a guy like that and I say, can he help me long term? Can he play the entire season? If he can, then it's worth me going up a couple of dollars now, because I'm going to get the benefit of his 20 steals, which I think he may get. I'm going to get the benefit of his decent average and his OBP if you play, especially that I can tout words like I do. It's an OBP league. So I feel like if there's growth there and it can last, it's worth it. But I don't want to pay for, like, I'm going to give you another guy, Lawrence Butler. I feel like this dude may be a flash in the pan, or JJ Bleday. They're good for a week and then they're out of the lineup for a week, where Triolo to me could last.
Exactly. He could last for sure. The plan is for him to be there every day, second baseman. So, I mean, it will depend on how he performs, but there's a pathway to it, and that's what's important.
All right. I mentioned Lewis Gill. I know you're a Yankee fan. I don't know what I mean, the Yankee rotation, dude, is not good. It's not good. And I feel like, is that Yankee money there that you're spending on Gill, or is it like good money you're spending on Gill?
There's definitely Yankee money you're going to spend on him, but it could be good money too. Obviously, without Garrett Cole, the rotation just looks so much worse. I mean, Rodon could be good. Stroman's consistent. Nestor had a really bad couple innings, but Gill, though, actually, I believe it's pronounced Hill, Luis Hill, according to Michael Kay, who I trust in,
right.
Voice of the Yankees. But looking at what Hill did when he was pitching before his Tommy John surgery, before his injuries, 3.07 ERA, 11.7 K per nine as a starter. That's some upside. And he definitely has a live arm. So is there going to be an innings limit potentially at some point? Yes. But if I can kind of get him now, squeeze him through, because he's not going to start a game probably before FAP, right? So you might be able to squeeze him through as a fifth starter with upside and benefit from that high K per nine. And you might want to be careful about the matchups. You never know, but the arm is good. The Yankees were really high on him, and then he got, had to go down from Tommy John surgery. But could be a really sneaky player.
Look, he could be, and he's on a team that's going to win. So would it surprise me if he'll had 10 wins by the end of the season? No, it's quite possible, right? On that team, it's possible, right? I look at the guys on the Diamondbacks: Ryan Nelson, Brandon Pfaadt. I don't necessarily love them, but could they get 10 wins? The way Arizona played last night, dude, they may get 120 wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it was the Rockies. We're going to want to pick on them a lot in DFS and seasonal betting, everything. But yeah, that's a good team. And yes, of course, good teams lead to wins. I mean, a lot of people say that about saves too, that's where I disagree. I think saves come everywhere, because the bad teams, even if they only win 55, 60 games, they're usually close games because they're not that good. So there's saves to be at. But in terms of wins, you can have the best pitcher in baseball on a bad team and he might win 8 games.
True. All right. Speaking of DFS, I don't think I told you this. I was in a free play on FanDuel yesterday, came in third.
Wow. That's very good.
I had 228 points. Had I put that lineup in like the big lineups, I would have been right there in like top 3 or 4, Lou. I had Nick Martini. I drank a couple martinis. I had Freeman. I had Betts. I had Jake Hamburger.
I got to ask you, hold on. Why did you have Martini? It looked like an incredible pick, but I want to hear your reasoning behind, like, how did you decide, okay, I'm going with Nick Martini today, a 33-year-old journeyman? You
mean the Tuffy Roads of March, if you will?
Yeah.
I'm going to give a plug to our friend James McCool from PayDirt DFS. I took a look at his numbers and what he has, and I want everybody to really think about this, because I've been really thinking about this for my DFS lineups. The range of outcomes and how many X, right? So when you look at it, he had a 5X type of game because he was only 2,300, right? And so I looked at it. I hated Gray. I like that Park. I like that Reds lineup. So I had a Reds stack in with my Dodgers stack with a little Jake Burger mixed in. And that's how I got to Martini. Did I love Martini? No, but I liked the price because I wanted to get Scooble in, and I wanted to get, I had Cole Reagans as my guy. So that's how I got to Martini. Now, is that a place where you like wake up in the morning and go, Nick Martini's my guy? No, but in the range of outcomes, any guy could go 5X. He was on that list.
See, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's a huge thing in DFS. A lot of people are always like, how did that person come to make that play? Well, if you're stacking reds, you're not just looking at the 5 most expensive reds. You're looking at a mix of that's the middle and the bottom. And if you're going to be stacking reds, why not go with a guy who you know is in the lineup and is cheap?
Right. And the thing is about stacking the cheap reds, it allowed me to get the expensive Dodgers in. And even though the Dodgers were a highly owned stack, the cheap reds were kind of in the mid on the stack. You know, people had Benson, people had Fraley, but they didn't have Martini. And you put those two things together. That's what it takes in baseball. Baseball's a lot like hockey. You know, Mark Larson at drauto.com, Tom, Kicker, Kickman they do great jobs by giving you the main line and they give you the second line, right? And if you put that main line with the second line together, like your main stack with your secondary stack, that's how you win in baseball. It's not easy. I mean, I put it together yesterday. I may not put it together again for another 5 weeks, Lou, but it's what happens.
Yeah, and it's funny because you're right. It is kind of like hockey. Of course, hockey usually more predictable because a lot of it's based on matchup and minutes. Baseball, I mean, Martini might not hit another home run for the rest of the year. I'm sure he will, but
I'm not so sure he will.
Yeah, that's just the way it goes.
But I'm big on this range of outcomes, like which guys can go 4 and 5X, because those are your outlying guys. Now, you're going to be wrong, and I think that's the big thing. I was wrong about a bunch of guys. Mark Canna yesterday, way wrong. Matt Vierling, way wrong. But Matt Vierling was up with the bases loaded yesterday. Dude struck out. All he's got to do is put the bat on the ball, and all of a sudden I look like a genius for putting Matt Vierling in my lineup. So baseball is just one of those things where you're going to lose so many nights that you've got to hope that you're winning. If you're winning once every, 3 weeks, you're doing something really well.
See, and also with baseball, one tip I like to give people is if you want to play your tourneys, do it. But it's always nice to have even a $5 double up every night because it can help kind of keep your bankroll going. You obviously put together a different type of lineup. You're not taking as many risks, so to speak. But if you're winning 4 or 5 of those a week, which is very doable, then all of a sudden you're kind of maintaining some of the money you might be losing.
Correct. It keeps you afloat. I mean, I play single entry because I'm not going up against a dude who's on Saber Sim with 150 lineups. I'm going to lose, right?
I don't mind single entry in baseball.
Yeah. I don't mind paying up a little bit. Will I pay the 12, 15, 18? I'll pay it. I'm cool with that. But I'm not paying crazy numbers like this. He'd override? What did he say? He had 3 bat, right? Look, baseball is frustrating. Your guy can get a hit or not. Maybe he hits the ball to the warning track. You missed a home run. Ohtani missed a couple of home runs when he was in Korea by a couple of inches that night?
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about tonight, Lou. Give me some of the players. I'm looking at my lineup already. That's why I'm, here. I'm checking it out. Give me some of the players you like tonight.
Well, from the pitching standpoint, I mean, Kirby is obviously interesting. Merrill Kelly, obviously interesting. I'm out on Musgrove right now. I like him as the season progresses, but not right now. He's not ready yet. Another prop I'm going with an RT Sports tonight is against him. But I do love Bobby Miller because of the strikeouts. I love AJ Puck because of his strikeout potential. And then for maybe some more consistency, a guy like Chris Bassett, he's not a sexy name, but he's one of those guys that kind of just get it done consistently. So
it's funny. I like Bassett. I like Bassett a lot. I like Savale because they're both kind of ugly. You don't want them. Let me ask you about Puck because on DraftKings, you're getting him at $7K. Heat override. I know I liked Frankie Montas yesterday at 6,300. I think that the Logan Allen is really going to be good. But when you look at it with Puck, for example, I worry that I could get 6 innings, 2 hits, 9 strikeouts, or I could get 3 innings, 2 hits, 6 strikeouts, but he threw 83 pitches and the Marlins are giving him the quick hook.
Yeah, very, very possible. Why I'm okay with it is because of the 7,000 price, though. If he was in the 8,000s or in the 9,000 range, like guys who could also put up those types of stat lines, I would be more nervous. But at 7,000, I don't think I'm getting burned if he only goes 3 or 4 innings. No, he's not going to get that win. But as long as he gets you those Ks are king. I mean, really always. But in DFS, it's everything. I mean, you
Right.
can have a guy go 5 innings, 5 earned runs, but he might get 8 strikeouts and salvage the day.
Well, that was what Reagan's did for me yesterday. Reagan's didn't win, but he had a lot of strikeouts in 6 innings. You're on my team every time.
Yeah.
I want to tell you I don't think this is a sneaky stack, but I will be on the Dodgers tonight, but not the way you think I'm on the Dodgers. I'll be on Dodgers righties. I'll be on me some Teoscar. I'll be on me some Chris Taylor. I'll be on the very wealthy Will Smith. I'll be looking at those Dodgers tonight. I'll let you have Freeman. I'll let you have Ohtani. I think I'm going to be on the other Dodgers.
100%. I like Taylor. I like Kike Hernandez as well. He should be in against the lefty. I like Teoscar Hernandez. He's not cheap, but he's a good bat. And Will Smith for sure. I mean, he's one of the best catchers in baseball. So if you're going to go that route with the Dodgers, do it. I like the Dodgers, and I like the D-backs again too. I mean, we're going to pick on the Rockies all season, basically. I mean, Cal Quantrill is not a good pitcher.
Are you staring at my lineup? Because I got I got the Diamondbacks as my other stack, and I just have to figure that out. And then, to me, but let me ask you this about DraftKings. I don't play 5 guys. Do you play 5 guys? I tend to do certainly a 3-man stack, likely a 4. I don't do 5.
It's on the prices of my favorite stack. I always go 4. I typically don't go 3 unless I'm doing a 5 and 3. Right. But I typically do 4, and then it depends. If I'm doing the expensive players in the stack, I might do a 4-man stack and then find 3 or 4 values to make it all work. Or I might go heavy. Like with the Dodgers tonight, for instance, if you go Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez, Taylor, and Kike Hernandez, you're okay because those value guys in that Dodgers stack balance out the expensive price of Smith and Teoscar. But if you want to start getting Mookie in, who's like 6,500, you're going to have to look for values elsewhere. Whereas if you don't go with Mookie, you don't have to think about the value plays as much.
Right. I mean, hitting value plays is a lot harder than hitting Mookie, right? If Mookie's going to hit the ball, right? And Freeman's going to hit the ball. If you just play the Dodgers 3 guys most of the time, you're probably going to end up winning a lot in cash if you can find the right pitcher. Because baseball, there's such variance. Nick Martini one night, if you just find the random Nick Martini against, a lefty going up against a righty or something, like J.D. Davis, for example. J.D. Davis, against Logan Allen. Logan Allen's a lefty. I'm not saying J.D. Davis is a great play, but he might hit the ball, right? And he always does well against lefties. So I'm just giving an example of a play I like, right?
Yeah, and he's not as cheap as I thought he'd be. I thought he'd be in the low 3s or even high 2s. He's 3,700. But, I mean, if you're playing in a tournament, going with a team like the A's, as crazy as it sounds, if you're making multiple lineups, not many people are going to have Oakland A's.
If you remember,
find some A's righties.
Trevor Hillstrom a couple of years ago won a lot of money. He kept on going back to the Tigers. And he goes, the Tigers are going to break through one night. And I think he went like 10 days with the Tigers. And sure enough, one day the Tigers exploded and he won a ton of money. And I'm thinking, you know what? Baseball is like that. If you stick with that same lineup, eventually that lineup is going to hit.
Yeah, it will. I mean, even the worst of the worst teams are going to have big outbursts at some point.
All right, give me your martini tonight. Do you have a martini tonight for us?
I probably don't have a martini because it's hard to predict a 2-home-run game. But I do like a couple of the Pirates in Triolo and Henry Davis. I do like you'll have to make sure he's in the lineup, but Austin Wells of the Yankees, he should be in the lineup because they're righty. I think you're going to see a lot of platoon between him and Trevino. So if you want to go, you could go there. And Kevin Biggio, who I'm still waiting for him to become Craig Biggio. I'm not sure it's ever going to happen. Right. But because of the Jays' weak third base and second base situation, Biggio continues to play. You can use him, I think, right now at first or second base. He hit a home run yesterday, and he's cheap. So he's a guy that I would probably throw into a lineup or two if I'm trying to save some money.
I saw Austin Wells literally hit a ball out of spring training. The ball left the stadium. Literally left the stadium Forget just that's how hard he hit it. I think if he's cheap, I love it. It's a sneaky play because if you don't get the guys who hit, I mean, yesterday I had 4 home runs in my lineup. And so I think that's like the number I'm trying to look for. How do I get 4 home runs a night? Now, it's really hard to do that. There's some nights that there's not 1 home run, right? And then there's some nights that there's 10. But if I can get 3 to 4, I think I got a better chance at cashing. And Austin Wells is the kind of guy that can pop a home run.
He definitely can. I mean, that's a pretty hitter-friendly stadium in Houston. And the Astros pitching staff is not what it used to be. Right. I mean, it's still good. Their bullpen's still good. Javier has good stuff, but I mean, they're a hittable team. I mean, the old Astros team up 4-0, like they were yesterday, would have closed that game out and probably won 6-1.
All right,
they're just not the same.
My Martinez Teoscar Hernandez, that dude could hit 2 home runs any given night, literally every given night. And Zach Thompson, I think, is going to throw a fat one right over the middle, and Teoscar is going to knock the crap out of it.
I can definitely see that.
I'm paying up. All right. The first podcast in the books, my friend. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to continuing with the caught looking. It took us a while to decide on the caught looking title, but I like it.
Well, we didn't want people to be caught looking out of their lineups, not getting the right guys in, not getting the right plays, not picking up the right, waiver wire picks, Lou. We got to hook people up. So
yeah, and I kind of saw it as they're caught looking at our beautiful faces as we're giving them the information.
That too, of course.
Yeah.
All right. For Doc and Lou Landers, we wish you well, be well, and take care.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.